So Dennis has asked via Instagram, do I feel the familiarity of the scent of home, my hometown, the minute I arrive back from a long foreign trip? The answer is simple. Yes, I notice a difference in both the scent in the air from the sea, because I live by the seaside, and also the light. But the most important thing for me is the moment I open my front door, that is the moment I know when I'm home. There is no smell like home. So Theodore has asked via Instagram, do you need to have an understanding of chemistry and or cosmetic science to be able to become a perfumer? The answer is, if you want to make a career from it, yes, you do. If you want to make scent for your own pleasure, then no, of course it's not necessary. But for a career, without question, you have to. Ray has asked me via Instagram if I could give some advice to somebody young who wants to become a perfumer. It's a really difficult one. Today you need to have a degree in science, certainly, and I would suggest that what you need to do is try to look to find a university that has at least a module or some modules that touch our industry, but it will be really very, very small. You need to be really focused, really determined, and get your eyes on what are called the compounding houses. The compounders are the entrance into the industry without question. Ramon has asked via Instagram, when did I fall in love with jewelry? When did I start wearing it? What's my inspiration? I think jewelry is just a form of self-expression in the same way perfume is. I started wearing jewelry, I can't remember, most likely when I was a teenager. I love it in the same way I love wearing perfume. It reveals just a little bit of your own personality and identity to the rest of the world. So Oh My Soul has asked via Instagram, why is it that some fragrances smell very obviously synthetic, whereas other fragrances which have a lot of synthetics in smell very smooth and rounded? I think the answer to that question is what was the brief the perfumer was given, and also what was the budget. So I would make a comparison to help people understand the answer to this question by looking at a t-shirt. If someone is able to make a t-shirt out of 99% cotton with 1% spandex or elastin, that synthetic makes the cotton perform better, and you would hardly notice it's there. If the person making the t-shirt has to make it from 99% spandex or elastin with only 1% cotton, of course you'll feel the synthetic and not the natural, because the natural is such a small component. So it depends how the perfumer got the brief, what the brief was. Personally, the synthetics I use are always used to enhance the performance of a natural, like the 99% cotton t-shirt with 1% spandex. I hope that answers your question. Philip has asked via YouTube, what fragrances throughout history, in my opinion, are masterpieces? The answer to that question has to be, look at the perfumes that I wrote about in my book, Essence of Perfume. I didn't choose them because I think they're beautiful necessarily. I chose them because without these perfumes, perfumery as we know it today wouldn't exist. So these, without question, are the greatest masterpieces our industry has ever produced. So Neon Light has asked via YouTube, what is the deciding factor to make us, or presumably any other company, discontinue a fragrance? The answer is really simple. It didn't sell. If something sells, we'd carry on making it. But certain perfumes have a moment, so like the scents I made in the Perfume d'Amore collection were some of our biggest sellers around the world. As people got used to it and they settled down and were no longer new, one scent became the one which was a standout, Ti Amo. The other two, sadly, don't exist anymore. What we do as a company, however, because I understand how attached people become to fragrances, is we put them into a little collection, small collection, which we call the Heritage Collection. These fragrances are available from our shop in the Burlington Arcade and also from the Roja Haute Perfumery on the 6th floor of Harrods. So that way we can always supply the need of the customers that lost their heart to one of my creations. Guy and Wendy Weston have asked me via YouTube, what is the best way to scent a large living room? That's a really difficult one. I think you just need to think of the different properties of the different things you can use. So if you want a very, very soft ambient scent that's always there, use a reed diffuser, but in a very, very large room, they're not going to do a thing for the room. You can use candles, which end up giving you an instant scent. Burn them for 2 hours before friends come around. I would say if the candle's any good, it won't just scent the room, it should scent your entire house. Unless you live in a palace, then you might need 1 or 2 more. And then also the thing of room sprays. The problem with the room spray, the scent normally is very, very potent for a short period of time, and literally, unless it's a very synthetic scent, within 15 or 30 minutes you wouldn't even notice it's there. So the other thing I think you must take into account is the property of each odor you choose. So if you take something like a very ambery scent, by the nature it's not very diffusive. If you take something brisk and bright like neroli, it is much more diffusive and therefore you notice it more. Choose the type of diffusion method and really take care choosing the raw material. Ronnie Jutt has asked via YouTube, do I have to travel the world to source the raw materials I use? The answer to that question is very simply no. The companies that I source the raw materials or buy my raw materials from know precisely the qualities I like to use, and so they make sure they present the oils to me. Whenever they get something new, bear in mind new naturals, maybe we get 2 new naturals every decade. But when something new is available, they present the raw materials to me, and then I stop to think whether it's something I want to use and how I might wish to use it. One of the things which is quite interesting in perfume composition or creation is that many of the compounders make specialty bases. So often the houses we deal with will make specialty bases especially for me to see whether they give me good ideas for a creative process. The Coconut Cookie has asked me via YouTube, do I think that you should or shouldn't end up taking scent with you to and from work because of change in temperature and jostling? So by jostling, I presume you're asking in case the bottle gets damaged somehow. Well, that's true of anything that's fragile, so you need to make sure that it's packed or put somewhere in a bag where it can't get damaged. The thing of change of heat, unless you're really going from this temperature to something where it's 20 degrees, 15 degrees change of temperature, it will make no difference. One of the worst things, however, on that point, change of temperature, if you are somebody who loves scent and have a collection and you keep it in a fridge, be very aware if you take scent out of a fridge, you need to leave it out, other than if you're just taking it out to use it and put it back into the fridge. Scent does not respond well to constant changes in temperature. Sambuca Sheikh asked me via YouTube, would I like most to create a scent which is considered the greatest, or something which is so new and original that it starts a new genre? I think, first of all, I would call to question who decides what is the greatest, because scent is creative, so therefore everything about creativity is subjective. So I would like that the work that I create is looked at and appreciated for what it is. If somebody says it's great, then of course that's a compliment. If everybody says it's the greatest, then I think that I have created the most extraordinary thing in the world, because I don't believe everyone will ever unite to say that. I do like the idea constantly of trying to push boundaries with perfumes. I think that that is something which is incredibly interesting. And if it starts a new genre, then by that mere fact, every perfumer would refer to it as the reference and therefore the best example. And you can say that of all the great classics. So with every great classic, a perfumer refers to it as the reference or the benchmark. So I would say pushing a boundary, because you create something new, which if it's going to endure time, everyone's going to refer to as the best of its type anyhow. Maybe I'll be lucky enough one day to make one of those. Rigdon Labro has asked via YouTube, did I study organic chemistry? The answer to that is no. I learnt perfumery in a very, very old-fashioned way, hands-on, or more I should say, nostrils-on. Nawaf Almad asked me via YouTube, why do I use rich materials like oud, musk, woods in the base and not something like neroli? Because neroli isn't a base note. Neroli is a heart note. If I use neroli and that's where a perfume stopped, it wouldn't last on the skin. So I think it's also important to understand that whilst I make ouds, I make a very tiny handful of them in a very large collection. I think that in total maybe there are 8 ouds in the collection, I've never added it up, and I make about 55 or 60 perfumes. So whilst some of the ouds like Amber Oud and the original oud are famous all around the world, I make so many other perfumes that have very, very soft bases, vanilla, musk, some other woods like cedar wood and so on. But if you want a perfume to really hold, you cannot stop at neroli. And I make a fabulous neroli. So try it if you like neroli well, and you'll be very surprised because it's neroli which really, really lasts. Mohammed Al-Zarani asked me via YouTube, what is the difference between Musk Oud and Musk Oud Crystal Parfum? There is really no difference in the olfactory element. I'm aware that in the Gulf, a lot of people wear white with the Kadora or Dishdasha. And so if you take my original ouds, whether that's oud, amber oud or musk oud, they are very dark, as all ouds are. So we have a special process put on many of the raw materials which are dark, materials like oud, patchouli, etc., to remove the color. It is called molecular fractional distillation. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the molecules, to do with scent. So with all of them, the scents are exactly the same, although visually they look different. So everybody has an opinion. No, I like the dark one, I like the clear one. The scents are identical, and they're made just for that purpose. We are the only brand in the world that have looked at perfumery this way, but maybe that's because I spent 3 years working in the Middle East, where I learned about Arabic perfumery, the Arabic love of perfumery, and a very practical thing: dark colors stain pale clothes. Nauf Kossi 91 asked me via YouTube, what is the concentration of Puffin Cologne? So he's referring to Elysium. Puffin Cologne is really like an eau de parfum. It has all the freshness of an eau de cologne, but the lasting quality of an eau de parfum. I think the majority of people look for something which is very light and refreshing, and so I just looked at this whole concept of eau de cologne, eau de toilette, eau de parfum perfume. As a company, we sell more perfume than any other strength, but I wanted to make another product which, as I just said, has the freshness of eau de cologne, but the lasting quality of eau de parfum. Fregra Bellissima has asked me via YouTube if I could create a scent for an actor or actress who's no longer alive, who would that person be and what would the scent smell like? Without question, it would be for Mae West, because it means I'd have to sit with her and I would hear this wry, very naughty sense of humor of hers, which she was so famous for, and maybe one or two anecdotes that nobody has yet heard. How would the scent be? Just like her, very feminine, voluptuous, naughty and playful. Serapio Silva asked me via YouTube, hello again Serapio, what is the most fragile raw material that I use in all the creations? It's a difficult one. Citrus materials always are very fragile. They oxidize incredibly quickly. Apart from that, the next I would say most likely is jasmine. Jasmine has an incredible tendency to oxidize, particularly if you expose it to direct sunlight and heat, which of course is the enemy for any scent or raw material, but jasmine in particular really behaves badly. You can always tell if you have an oxidation on jasmine because the scent will start to go very red-orange in color. Another question from Mohammed Al-Zarani via YouTube is, once I've made the base, the formula itself, what are the different processes or stages that the scent goes through before it ends up in a store? So once the formula is created, it goes to the south of France, where all of our perfumes are compounded. So they're compounded in the town of Grasse. Once the compound is made, it's then shipped back to Britain, where we start the dilution process in alcohol. The scent has to maturate or mature, so it allows all the different raw materials to intermingle. The alcohol is added very, very slowly in stages, and at each step or stage it's allowed to settle, maturate, and then more alcohol is added to get it to the correct dilution. It maturates for somewhere generally between 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the formula. It then goes through a cold chill filtration process, because when you chill this product, any residue in it becomes solid, so it's then filtered. The chilling and the filtration depends on the formula. 2 or 3 times that process happens. The product is then allowed to rest or maturate again, and then the filling process happens. Once the product is filled, We normally allow it to rest in the bottle for 2 to 4 weeks, and then it's shipped all around the world to the various stores.